and say we're going to wait 5 more minutes. So we're not. We're actually going to start at 7:30. So hey everyone, thanks very much for hopping on our third Up Your Game coaching webinar series. They've been really fun to put together, and I think for the most part, of course I'm biased, but reasonably well received. You get some texts and some emails after, and I don't think we've really talked too much about this, but keep in mind that while sometimes we have people come on these calls who have coached at World Games and those things, they're often designed, or the spirit of this was to get local community coaches who sometimes maybe are, for lack of a better word, maybe afraid, or not sure what to do all the time, and when to be on their front foot and just step in and coach, and then when to back out. And so we appreciate that. If it's the 50th most important thing in your life is to show up every Tuesday evening to a bocce practice, and maybe you don't always get a chance to practice your coaching as explicitly as you want. And so, yeah, we're just exposing a little bit of content here. I think, the other two we did around mental skills and sort of the 4 C's of transformational coaching, even though sometimes those sound kind of maybe heady in terms of titles, we're trying to keep this on the DL a little bit and chill and just have a bit of fun with it. So, I know, well, thank you for those of you who have your cameras on. You're making my life a little easier. At least I can look at the three of you and make us feel like we have this big group. So certainly no pressure but if you had a camera on, we could be like lifelong friends and I would appreciate it. But I understand that circumstance or whatever. Also, we're in the day of 2024. If you need to eat and you need to do things, go for it. Like I say, we're just hanging out. So that said, we should fire up a couple of slides just to keep us on point. As always, the slides that we have aren't meant to have too much text on them, so no worries about that. If you haven't noticed already, Danielle from the office is recording the session, and that looks weird. Does that look okay? Can someone give me a thumbs up? Yeah. No, you see, no, yes. Okay, Sherry and Francine, we're getting different. Sherry, can you see the PowerPoint?
It's not in presenter mode.
Oh, what? It actually is on mine. Okay. Hang on. Why? Maybe I just gotta swap displays. Let's see what if I do that. Better or worse? Nope, same. Okay. Well, let's stop sharing. Let's take it out of here. Let's end this slideshow. Like that. Now I need to, no. Come on. Oh, I see what the problem is. So, lordy. Okay, so let's start this all over again. We want to go to here. I added a third screen a couple days ago, and it does throw it a little bit for a loop here. So we're going to go here, and that should go like this. Share. Huh. Well, we're off to a blazing start. How do I get that off of there? If I swap displays.
What
No.
if you hit play from start?
Yeah.
I think the presenter view is so you can see all your slides that are coming up.
Of course. It's just that right now I gotta disconnect this screen. Dan, do you know any good jokes? Hmm.
What happens when a chicken looks at a bowl of lettuce?
I can't
A
concentrate.
chicken sees a salad.
Uh, good old dad jokes. Okay, so what I'm
Oh,
going to do.
Ariane has one in the chat.
Okay,
What did
awesome.
the 0 say to the 8? Nice belt. Ha! Good one. Clever.
All right. So sometimes the solution is just unplug your other monitor for now. So we want to go Microsoft PowerPoint, share. And then I'm going to go, please tell me. Now you can see everything.
Good to go.
That was so easy. That didn't even take long. Okay, I'm sorry about that, peeps.
Can you
So
hear
yeah,
me?
here,
Glenn?
say again.
This is Rick. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Rick. You know, you're pretty tech savvy. I should have asked you for a solution.
Not me.
Hi, Glenn.
Oh, hi. All right. So let's get at it. So what we're going to do today is sort of look at a few different things here. We're going to maybe just explore a little bit of your understanding of leadership. We'll challenge you to think a little bit differently, specifically around the roles that athletes play in this kind of leadership, maybe space or way of thinking. Because I think at the end of the day, you know, we're not today, especially in such a short amount of time, we're not here to talk about frameworks and fancy leadership stuff. We actually want to think about, hey, our athletes show up to basketball. How can we sort of build and help develop some basic or more advanced leadership skills? And so when we talk about skills, we talk about doing things, right? Not so much about knowing stuff. All right. And then, you know, consider maybe some simple behaviors that you're currently doing. There'll be some opportunities to share, or maybe come up with some new list as we go. So I'm always a bit nervous given how many people come on. So we're 29 people on right now. So we might even break into a couple of small rooms with a couple of people each, and have you just maybe think a little bit about what you're currently doing and come back to the group and share an idea too around you know, sort of pragmatic leadership things. So let's go. So I will do the sort of mandatory who's the ball guy leading this and why are we here tonight. So some of you I do know you and have known you for quite a while. There are some people I know I don't know, and so I haven't cross-referenced who's on tonight with the other two webinars we did, but just very briefly. So my name is Glenn Kandari. I own a company called Coach Plus, and we have kind of a neat business. There's myself and another full-time employee and two part-time. So we're four, almost going to be five now, going every day, working in coach development in 29 countries in a whole bunch of different sports. So yeah, we do some really neat things, and you know, we try and do them as it says here, just a little bit differently than maybe some traditional things, but that's for a discussion for another day. One of the things that we do talk about though is, you know, sort of the log house. You know, the big logs are like these mandatory training things you do, and NCCP workshops and Special Olympic stuff. And that's, you know, that's such an important part, because without it, you wouldn't have sort of this wall that you're looking at. But we see ourselves as the white stuff in the middle. And, you know, when we work with coaches and organizations, we don't, we support, of course, the formal part, but we really get into the nitty gritty. Most of our work is done individually with coaches. I think we have maybe 105 coaches in our sort of ecosystem at the moment. And they all have learning plans, and we get, like I say, right into the small bits of it. So if anyone knows what the white stuff is called, I would love for you to put it in the chat. This is a test. What is the white stuff between the logs called? There we go. Mortar would be on a brick, Marianne. Yes, Allison, it's called chinking. Very nice. Okay. So yeah, that's how we kind of define what we do. There's a little bit of my Special Olympics life. So in the bottom left is our local golf program. So I reside in North Bay, Ontario, in maybe the most beautiful part in the country. And so golf is my core sport that I come from. So that's our local golf program. Then right above that is my wife, who coaches and caddies in golf, and now has a 30 athlete pickleball program in North Bay as well, which is booming like crazy. And then there's me beating up a Special Olympics coach in Pakistan. We do work in Pakistan, Guatemala, Chile, Namibia, Kenya, all with Special Olympics. So we sort of get around a little bit. So we're having a bit of fun taking some photos. All right. In the chat, if you could, what do you currently do to support athletes in the development of their leadership skills? And so just to be clear, this doesn't mean that you're having them public speak to make big speeches, but even in the most micro way, okay, because that's really what today's going to be about, right? In the most small yet meaningful way, what are you currently doing in your program? Okay. So so the demos are being led by athletes, it looks like, Sarah. Athletes are leading warm-ups. Have one lead warm-ups. Good. Let's see one more. Athletes mentor new ones. Very cool, Pat. I'd love to learn more about that. That's take them to CFL game. Athletes MC the awards presentations. Wow, that's legit. Everyone has a chance to pick one warm-up activity, pick one cool down. Good. Talk about something important in the sport. Yeah, great. Okay. Right. So really, really cool. Help build self-confidence. And so Jen, very cool comment. You know, that would be sort of the outcome of it, right? And so that's what we're trying to ultimately achieve through some of these leaderships, is that we increase self-esteem, we look at confidence. And then for us as coaches, the $1 million question is, you know, what are we doing to do that? So thanks for chiming in. All right. Even if you want to open your mic on this, because sometimes we can overuse chat. Why do athletes arrive to their given sport every week? Yeah, for field chat or your mic, whatever you want. Yeah, Allison, social, definitely.
To have fun and see
Right.
their friends.
To have fun, see their friends.
Develop their skills.
Definitely develop their skills, get better. Yeah.
It's become part of their routine.
That's a good one, right? It's part of their structure, their week. Yes.
Play the sport they enjoy.
Yeah, very much, right? So, you know, you've pretty much hit on. There we go. Right. So this idea of, you know, participation in the middle, and then all of these kind of different reasons, right, that athletes may or may not participate. So we'll come back to this diagram after, but I'd like for us to consider within each of these circles, are there things that we can do that will build leadership in the fitness component? So many of you said help with warm-ups. Great. That ties to fitness, and they're demonstrating some leadership, right? Especially if they know it's coming, right? They know next week it may be them, that there's a routine to this, right? Then when it comes to like personal growth, what does that mean? What does it mean around advocacy, right? Because we know a lot of our athletes are in Special Olympics and they love to tell the story of Special O and tell them how it's supported their life and why other people should be involved. So what we're trying to say here is that leadership comes in a lot of shapes and sizes, and we'll build on it in just a moment. So like I say, we'll come back to this after and get into some more, I think I used the word earlier, pragmatic things that we can support athletes with. So in the chat or on your microphone, is the word leader a verb or a noun? Going back to your old English days at school here. Is leader a verb or a noun? Both. Interesting, Marianne. You're going to start with this, aren't you? Both.
I would say that leader's the noun and lead is the verb.
Okay. So lead would be a verb. Yeah. Leader is a noun, right? So generally we would say a leader is a person, right? So a person typically is a noun. So what is this?
Things before. What is it? It's a verb.
It's a verb.
Yeah, because it's
Okay. Okay, so not that I don't want to make this a grammar class. What is a verb?
it's an action word.
Yeah, it's an action, right? So can you do leadership? Like, what's the action?
Talking and giving direction.
Okay, so talking would be a verb, right? Giving direction would be a verb.
Visual.
Okay. And so when you look at the definition of a noun, at least I remember from school, right? It's a person, place, or thing. And so a thing, I would suggest, is leadership. But I love the discussion and starting to think already your mind, just by asking these questions the way we did, starting to think a little bit about leadership as a form of action. Even though probably by definition, it's a noun. So when we think of this, and so please don't get wrapped up on the actual skills. I just literally found a random infographic that wasn't ugly. And because we can find all kinds of other, the best skills for leaders, and you're going to find a bunch of different research. So I'm not stuck on the 1 to 10. But what I would say is that when you think about leadership, like in action, right, it's a culmination of a bunch of verbs. Okay. So leaders as a noun, leaders do stuff. Leaders do verbs. And we really want to start to think about, so the key words here, if we believe these 10 were like the omnipotent answer, right? The key words here are communicate, inspire, demonstrate, build, promote, expand, etc. Right? Those very verb-centric words. So when we talk about supporting athletes in the development of their leadership skills, the point I'm trying to make here is that we don't necessarily have to worry about developing them as leaders. There is a big difference. You can show great leadership in a company of 5,000 people and be like, maybe the least senior in the bunch, where the CEO is the leader and hopefully demonstrates leadership as well. So just trying to be clear that if we ask someone to lead a warm-up, right, we may be more concerned with the leadership skills that they're developing and not so much around, okay, now you're the leader, because being the leader is different and it has a different burden involved with it. Okay. What do we think about that?
What do you think about that?
Okay, thanks, Sharon.
I don't think you gotta be the leader. You can kind of let them do what they wanna show you that they can do.
Mm.
And then you can, I guess, be a leader to move them on a little bit from that.
Yeah, sure, Rick, you're spot on. And for sure, some of our athletes will want to be leaders, right? Some of you may know they're part of maybe the leadership academy and they're making public speaking and they're meeting politicians and they like that leader role. But again, I think we're talking about the day-to-day sort of community program and how we can support athletes in developing leadership, so that if they need to talk to the bus driver on the bus, right, that they feel like they have those leadership skills to do that. They can advocate for themselves. It doesn't mean, again, that they're a leader or the leader. Okay. So the next few slides, really, I think it would be irresponsible of us not to have this discussion about leadership and athletes without highlighting some of the work that's done at SOI, so Special Olympics International. So they have a quite extensive, what do I say, sort of database and amount of content. everything from, well, here. So each one of these, so you can see it actually starts at the top and works down. So they have these couple of core modules around introduction to athlete leadership and then understanding leadership. And then you'll see these next kind of 5 modules that are maybe a little bit more advanced skills. And then from there, talking about, you know, what roles they'll take. And maybe you've heard the term global messenger, you know, athlete representative. And so each one of these, like when you go online, I had the link, but I can't access it now that I'm in this mode. All you need to do, if you just go Special Olympics International Leadership, it'll take you right to the, and you'll find each one of these icons has a whole training course behind it, facilitator guides, PowerPoints, that's all open source. So it's not behind some kind of secret wall that you have to be whatever. So I would really encourage you, and you know, to dig in. You might find a couple simple, well, yeah, I guarantee you will find some simple activities and some simple interventions that you can take, regardless of capacity of the athletes. So I think, you know, I think sometimes I'm certainly guilty of this, is, you know, I tend to look at leadership through my lens of those in our local golf program who might show more skill or more social interaction ability, and sometimes, you know, miss out some really cool opportunities with others that might not always be front and center. Okay. So yeah, get in there, find a bunch of stuff, download it. There's a ton. One of the things I do like, and I think we can really bring this to a local level, is that they have these 3 principles of leadership. And that is, you know, for us as coaches, we have to be aware, we have to know it's there. We have to go in, see the stuff, realize all the kind of different complexities that are involved with our particular athletes. And then we train them, right? If we want people to run a really effective warm-up as an athlete, how do we support them, right? How do we train them to do that? And I don't mean training in a big formal way, right? How do we help them learn how to debrief an activity with their athletes, with their teammates, right? They can do that. We just have to help them and kind of show them and be models for them. And then we give them the opportunity, and that's what a number of you said in the chat early on. But I think at this point, when they have the opportunity to do some leadership, it's really important that we're providing some feedback, right? And I think sometimes we all have this big debate, I suppose, but sometimes I don't like how we lower the bar for performance, whether it's in sport or even like socially or whatever. Sometimes our athletes. So if someone has some really good skills to lead a warm-up and maybe they didn't do a great job, then I think we can hold them to a level to say, hey, come on, you can be better. And this is where this feedback comes in. You hopefully provide an opportunity and, you know, let them know what they did well, let them know where they can improve a little bit. And then they have another go at it next week or later in the practice, or, you know, whatever that looks like. But I think, you know, I think we're reasonably good at giving people opportunities, but, you know, because, you know, we talk a lot about how important Special Olympics is to bringing their what they learn in Special O out into their job, their social life, school, whatever. And I just think sometimes maybe we could be more intentional as sport coaches to support them in doing that, right? We give great feedback. If they're missing, you know, they're putting the ball in the gutter and bowling, we're really good to help them with their follow through and their footwork, and we do all this, and we're competent and good at it. But if we give them a leadership opportunity and they stumble and bumble and fumble, we sort of say, good try in many cases. And so what kind of feedback can we provide them? And maybe with their permission, if someone is leading a warm-up, right? Why wouldn't you say, hey, Dylan, do you mind if I video you leading this warm-up and we can look at it after? And you can tell me one thing you really liked and one thing that you thought, oh man, that was not so good. Yeah, and in all cases, I would say they're going to say yes. So you do that. You can delete it off your phone. He'll probably want it on his phone, so you get it to him, right? So these are the things where the opportunities for growth, right? And I can promise you this, and I mean, I don't want to wag my finger and sound like you don't know, but if we do that with Dylan in a warm-up, later on when he's, you know, let's say it's at golf and he's hitting shots on the range, you know what he's going to ask for? He's going to ask, can you video that like you did earlier? right? Then we start to build some trust in that relationship, and yeah, and just moving his golf and his sort of core leadership skills forward. I love this. So it's got a few words, so I'll let you read it. Can someone paraphrase that in your own words? I would love, I think we can do a whole hour just on this slide, but yeah, could someone paraphrase?
I'll take a shot at it. It
Yeah,
looks
great.
it's something like we're always used to helping people who we think need the most help, but really we need to take a step back and give them the opportunities to do what they can on their own, just
Yeah.
supporting them.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think that's, yeah, exactly. It's spot on. So, yeah, this idea of us doing things like on them or to them. And we do this in generic education, right? Very often with the teacher at the front of the room. And this is not unique to Special Olympics, but I think in this case, when really focusing on life skills and really focusing on, in this discussion around leadership. And so, sometimes giving choice is a really good opportunity for them to consider some basic problem solving. Right. So, hey, we're here going to do this activity. Do you think we should do it in groups of 2, 3, or 4? Oh, Glenn, let's do it in 3. Okay, let's do it in 3. But can you explain why you think 3 is better than 2 and 4? Right. And so when we start to give them some choice, not give, that sounds such a power play. When they have an opportunity to have choice, right, we then are not doing stuff to them. They're taking ownership. Of course, we have a role. But in this case, we are really starting to nibble away at this idea of leadership and them being in control, right? Because I mean that, I guess you could probably find some definitions of leadership, is a version of control, and I don't mean control in a bad way. So, like I say, I think, yeah, this slide is I'm really glad that I found it when I was looking preparing for today. Okay, so when we think about the idea of doing something not to them, right? You think, okay, well then, like, how do we do it, right? If we don't do things for them because they need help, right? They have an ID, but we know that it's not necessarily that. But these are some like phases that, in some cases we might have to do it for them. There's no question about that. Many of our athletes, when you get into like doing it with them, they're quite competent, quite confident, right? They display fair level of competency. And then when we say, all right, now it's your turn to lead, how can we go, and I sorry, not to dismiss anyone's comments around warm-ups, how can we have them go beyond warm-ups? How can we ask them to describe the putting drill we're going to do? How can we ask them, they're responsible to lead the group to pick up the cones and the basketballs, right? So, and of course, things will naturally go awry, and we get to say, okay, hey, you did some things really well. What could be better next time? And again, maybe all of our athletes can't necessarily manage that, but I think, I don't know, my experience, a whole bunch of them can. But I think if we're not intentional or explicit, is it, when you're setting up an activity, right, or you're planning a practice or at a competition, right, is there an opportunity for you to kind of think of these 3 buckets and say, all right, I'm going to do this activity. What's my role here? Is my role to kind of really lead and kind of do it for them? Is it a shared responsibility, almost like unified sport in a way, right? Or am I setting up the environment that I can get out of the way and support them to lead this? So this becomes quite meta, right? Because you have to be leader, you have to demonstrate leadership about leadership. So So today's workshop, as Dan and I were going back and forth, was not about leadership of coaches today. It was the assumption we're making is that you all have strong leadership skills, which I know we can all be better at, but that you have them so that you're in a place to better support athletes. So you can go to the far right-hand side here and say, you know what, over to you. Right. And for those maybe athletes who read well, right, we can give them, it takes a bit of planning, but we can give them a small recipe card, right? And they can lead an introduction. We give them a couple of keywords, right? Or, whatever that might be. Okay. Peer-to-peer coaching, right? There's no reason why I think if we're going to practice, kicking the soccer ball, that they can't do it in pairs and give each other some feedback. With some structure. And I know even sometimes and this may come up when you get into your breakout rooms, but for those of you who do registration right at the beginning of a session, to me, I think we should just maybe put that on a clipboard, and one of the athletes is responsible for doing registration. Okay, so-and-so is here, so-and-so's not here. And again, it's a task, yeah, but it's something where they are, they have some responsibility that they have to own, and they kind of have to report. Okay, can you please, I'm counting 12 people. Can you please make sure you have 12 check marks? Yep. Oh no, I have 11. Okay. Let's problem solve. Who are you missing? And so those are things that are really quite sticky, for athletes, from a leadership standpoint. Okay. What we will endeavor to do is I think just so we have less rooms, contrary to what I just said, you're not going to get an option if you want to do this in 2, 3s, or 4s. We are going to put you into rooms of 3. Okay. We'll give, for sure, take a couple of minutes to introduce yourself. It's going to happen inevitably. And then if you can consider this slide, and can you come up with one in the field, so whatever your sport is, when they show up to probably a training session, and you can pick, we would like for you to pick 3 of these circles. Okay. Can you find one behavior that will support their development of leadership in whichever ones you choose? What we'll ask is that when you get in there, if one of you can be responsible to either report back to the group, okay, so we're getting a bit workshoppy here, or put into the chat. But one of you, if you can please just make sure someone is responsible for that. And then we'll, that'll take a little bit of time, and we can have hopefully some good discussion and generate, we can kind of co-create some content here about things that you can do when you head back to your training session, maybe those tomorrow. Okay. Right. Let me get the room set up. Oops, crap. Didn't do that. Breakout rooms. Create. No, include, no. So we're going to do 10. If we go 9. Let's see what that looks like. Create 3, 3, 3, 3. Yeah, good. I think there's one group of 2. Okay. So let me just review the task again. When you get into the group, please identify who's going to be your scribe, if you will, and either report back or use the chat when you come in. We would like for you to take 3 of these reasons that athletes might participate in Special Olympics activities, and try to find at least one thing, one behavior or action that you can provide to an athlete so they can develop some leadership. However you define that. What questions do you have before I open the rooms? We will let's put 7 minutes on the clock. So on the shot clock, you get 1 minute to say hello to each other, and then 2 minutes per topic. Okay. Here we go. Okay, have fun. All right, team. This is our chance to use language I was saying earlier for us to co-create. This is my favorite type of work where, I don't think we're talking about really crazy put man on the moon kind of people on the moon idea, but you are all really smart and have a bunch of experience coaching. And I think collectively, that's why Wikipedia is so accurate, right? Because so many people contribute to it and you get it right. And we don't need more than 25 people to get it right. So, at the risk of like going room by room, which we can definitely do. Yeah, I'd love if someone wants to jump in and start. Otherwise, we can just call on a group to kind of have at it. So if someone is super anxious, oh great, thanks, Lori. Yeah.
We were in room 8,
Mm-hmm.
and the first thing we chose was esteem and confidence.
Right.
And what I'm going to do with that is I normally take the attendance when people show up.
Yep.
But our practice tomorrow is canceled. But next week, I'm going to see if one of the athletes wants to do that. And I
Sure.
have a clipboard and a pen, and they'll feel all important, and they can take the attendance.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
They have responsibility for something. That's where the leadership will come in.
Yeah, totally.
And the other one we chose was skills development and inclusion.
Yeah.
One of the ladies said they assign a buddy to newcomers, which
Mm.
was a great idea. And the third one was skill development. We all admitted that we all do warm-ups,
Yep.
but we don't necessarily do warm downs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just as important as the warm-up.
Sure.
So encouraging the athletes, all of the athletes, to understand why we're warming up or warming down or cooling down a certain
Yeah.
area of the body.
Yep.
Providing
Excellent.
some education.
I love it. And those buddy check-ins or those kind of mentor or however, whatever language you want to use, like those can be so good, and that really ties into the social bubble as well. And it can be, yeah, hey, you're in, but hey, if you're a buddy today, that means you have to check in at least once throughout the practice, right? You have to make sure you go over and shake their hand or whatever to say goodbye. Like you can set these little mini rules so that so it continues. So yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for that, Lori. Who's up? Okay, let's go. Francine, Lori, and Sue. Did you come up with anything? I think you're on mute. No, I don't think you are on mute, Sue. That's okay.
No.
Thank you.
Okay. So we didn't describe, but I'll talk.
Yep.
We picked ones that we thought were a bit unusual.
Good.
One was social, and one of the suggestions we're coast to coast here, Halifax, Saskatoon, and Montreal, I think. The social one that I really liked was that they are all taught to shake hands properly and present themselves, introduce themselves, which is a great skill just going out in the world and using. So
Yeah.
I really like that one. We did inclusion and community, and that's mostly obviously in the community. It's outside of the sport, so it's a lot of things like the Tim Hortons Day. And there was a mix of things from showing up with your medals and talking to the customers to being back in the kitchen glazing the donuts to running the takeout window. I also do golf. I'm in Halifax. We have some RCMP veteran tournaments. They have a truckers event. They have, there's a number of things, a barbecue at a hardware store, a number of things that go out where they're in the community. And
Yeah.
many of them like to talk and show their medals.
Oh, I've never noticed.
Yeah. And the last one we picked was fun, and there was, no question about what they all like to do the most, and that was go to the dance.
Go to the dance. Yeah. Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks very much for that, Sue.
Can go.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, I can go.
Yeah. Great.
I don't know what room we were. I'm not that brilliant.
I will
didn't
tell
pay
you, you were in
attention.
room 5. Whoops. You're in room 5.
Awesome. So we did talk a bit about the warm up as well, but instead of it just being one person, maybe each athlete could do 1 to 2 exercises each. And we talked about structure. So like structure, for example, on our national team, we've asked each of the athletes to take a turn planning our practice, like what it's going to look like. So making sure we're on time, all of that. So they talk about that. When it's their turn, they speak the week before to remind us what time we come and what we're going to do when we get there, and then that kind of thing. And then they pick the structure and the skill we're going to work on. So for example, in 5-pin bowling, it may be today we're going to try to get just the 2 pins, or today we're going to try for head pins, or today we're going to try a top off, like, or just the cleanup, right? So they do that too. And then on personal growth, I was thinking about this after practice, instead of us asking what went right, the person who's leading this, who's done the structure, they also ask all the athletes what they thought went well and what we can work on next time, so that the next leader might have an idea of what we should try for.
Yeah. Amazing. So many layers of interaction with all that. Right. Yeah, I love the idea of having them, set some kind of structure for the practice, and coach can refine it. And, you can have 2 people doing warm-ups and give them 5 minutes to sit over on the side and plan it together. Okay, I'll do this, then you do that. And, yeah. Okay. Very cool. Okay. Thanks, Marianne. So Allison typed in the text for room 4. We talked about how important it was to have everyone included. Not just the ones that are sort of more capable. And yeah, that for sure creates some challenges, right? And I think there's times where maybe you might pair people up who are similar in capacity, and times where you have more experience and less experience, and those things. Everyone should have a chance to demonstrate leadership, although it can be tricky to find a way. Yeah. So this idea of in terms of like everyone having a go and inclusion and those kinds of things. So thanks, Allison. Nancy and Sue, room 6. Maybe. Oh, Sue. Sue, you already reported. Yeah, we're good. Jennifer, Rick, and Sarah.
I wrote ours down. We actually hadn't picked out so inclusion and community. We did volunteering, so just getting the athletes to make sure that they feel accountable for some of the funds that raised. So yeah, that's what we have for inclusion and community, and making sure everybody is involved in that. And then Jennifer mentioned that one of her athletes is a True Sport ambassador, and she didn't mention which one, but I put it under advocacy because I think it's really great to put out to the community that True Sport, each month, the different athletes assigned. He has, I think she said October. So that was really great. And then representing the province and pairing people up. Rick talked about that. So I think personal growth as well. And when you are representing in tournaments and stuff like that, there's a sense of pride with it as well. And I think a lot of personal growth happens at that time. So hopefully, I don't know if Rick or Jennifer wants to add anything. I tried to just kind of pick, what we did is kind of talked about the ideas, but we didn't exactly match it to, we didn't take a picture of this and we forgot some of them.
That's
so
okay.
So I tried to pair it up to what I thought made the most sense, but
Sure.
if they want to add anything.
I mean, if nothing else, yes, we're getting some ideas, but hopefully the overall message is, you know what, this is not that hard to do if we just take some time to intentionally think about how do we build leadership into many parts of our athletes. Again, probably mostly training sessions. Okay, good. Jen, Laura, you already reported, so we're good there. David and Pat.
Okay. Hi, Glenn.
Hi, Pat.
We kind of took fun and social and mixed them together because a lot of athletes are there for the fun and for the social part of it. And then we mix into that some of the skill development with some of the athletes that are a bit more competitive can come and help the ones that are only there to hit a ball or throw a bowling ball and don't really want to do much else. So if we use some of the more skilled athletes to help the ones that are just there to have fun, kind of mixes them all together and gets them to working together more as a group.
Yeah. Great. I mean, I think, grouping is always such a beast, right? Like, when you have wide age ranges or wide skill levels or, genders aren't balanced the way you want. And like, it is quite an art to be able to kind of figure that out. So yeah, good. Thanks, Pat. One of the things, just to show you I'm just trying to find this picture. I had the privilege. So for those of you maybe who have golf programs, and part of my job, I was in Florida last week, and we were at the L's for Autism. It's the Center of Excellence. This massive. They have schools and therapy, and they have this like golf facility there. And we got to watch one of their golf coaches who specializes in autism care. And some of the neat things they did out in the golf kind of world. And, it was a real kind of cool leadership thing with some athletes that, by old language, we would say have less function or less capacity. And I don't know, I'm going to just try and show it here. Oh, it doesn't show too bad. So here's the coach. And what he had was this big board, and these little squares were just on Velcro. And you can see at the top, it was a to-do list. And so at practice, you'll see here, one was have a water break, one was warm up, one would be like putting. And then what they did, he would use that board at the beginning because so many of these athletes were purely visual with pictures. And then what he has them do, those who have maybe a little less opportunity, they're maybe not so vocal, is they had to decide what they did and take it and put it in the to-do column. So much like a to-do you might have on your fridge, right? Brush your teeth, put your dishes away or whatever. He had the same idea. So at one point, they didn't have time to do chipping. So the chipping thing didn't go over. And so it was just a really neat way for athletes to demonstrate some leadership in a way that was supportive of where they were. So yeah, that was neat to watch. Leah, we discussed using a workout readiness checklist to help athletes take responsibility of getting ready for practice. That could definitely fall under structure and personal growth. Yeah, I mean, that's next level, right? When we start building in some accountability and some, those things. So yeah, very good. Thanks, Leah. Many of these athletes would be using a choice board at school or at home. Yeah, good. Yeah. Okay. So you can see in not too much time here, we probably have collected 20, I will say, quite simple things that don't, because if it's burdensome on us, we won't do it. And that doesn't mean anyone's lazy. It just means that, you already have lots on the go. So if you can just find small ways to integrate, man, it's so awesome. So not that questions haven't come up to this point already, but I guess, what questions might you have? Not that I can answer them, but I think collectively as a group, we can definitely, maybe address some of them if you have any. We're at the 52-minute mark, so we're spot on for time.
Mine isn't a question, more of a, can you put that picture up again from your phone? I want to take a picture of it.
Sure. What I'll do is I'll airdrop it to myself and go like this. Airdrop. And then I'll just I'll put it into the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We went through, they have this, I mean, this center is massive. There's hundreds and hundreds of kids, and it's crazy. They have a sense, this is off topic, but they have this sensory garden, and it's like award winning. It's probably over an acre, and it's gorgeous, but they have an area of plants and flowers that you can actually eat. And so they have pictures of a mouth and stuff, and they're with therapists and stuff. And then they have a section with like garden bells and things, and so they go and make noise. And they have all these textured plants that are rubbery and silky, and it's a touch to it. It's a really really neat place. Okay, let me stop talking and put this over here. Transfer. Dan, it says I can't. Oh, because it's an HEI. You can, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to have at it. I'm going to stop sharing that PowerPoint. Actually, what I will do, not that I expect that you want to follow up with me, but should you want to, here is my details. You can see them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Because I took the format I took that picture in, I can't dump it into the chat. Okay. What else? Anything else?
Will there be any more of these sessions?
Danielle?
Hi.
Hi. Did you hear that
Yes.
question? Yes.
What a
I guess
perfect segue.
Great.
So we will be having more sessions throughout the year. Dates are TBD. They will be distributed through your chapter. But what we like to do for these webinars is have the topics selected by our participants. So I'm going to open a poll now that will allow you to select some topics from a list that Glenn and I have put together for topics you'd like to see covered in future webinars. So you can go ahead and that should be open for you.
Dan, it says transfer of JPEG files is restricted by the account. I don't know what that means.
That could be ours. So if you can't send it to our account permissions, but if
Yeah,
you send it to me, I can distribute perhaps
you know what?
tomorrow to everyone.
I'll just, you know what I'll do right now? I will just, if everyone can sit tight for 1 second, I'll just throw a slide in here. I'll add a slide. Okay. So we want to go like this.
Alrighty, I'm going to close off that poll. So if you haven't voted, I'll give you 10 more seconds. Okay. Thank you everyone for voting in that. That is super helpful. I will throw it back to Glenn.
Okay. So I got the format changed. I plugged a slide. So you should be able to see that right now. Is that correct?
We
That
do.
picture? Okay, good. You know, we started slow and we're ending slow. That's sort of supposed to be the opposite. Hey everyone, like, you know, literally, you know, never ever hesitate to reach out. I'm really proud of the work that we do at SOC and the partnership that Coach Plus has with them, and specifically with Dan and I, who spend a lot of time talking more or less every day. And so, you know, I always sort of like to end to say that, you know, I know coaches take their coaching seriously, and to have the privilege to come in and just nudge around sometimes with people's coaching is something not lost on me, and we don't take for granted. So yeah, please stay well. I'll stay on until the last person's off, in case you want to have a chat. Dan, can you answer Pat's question in the chat?
Yep, I'm just typing a response. We won't share the actual presentation, but we will have a recording for Rick and for Pat. We do have the recordings available. We are just working on putting them up into our learning management system, very likely on SO Learn.
Perfect. Okay, excellent. Yeah. Hey everyone, thanks. Be well. And we'll be in touch soon, and you'll hear about upcoming webinars.
Thanks
Thank
for your
you.
time, Glenn.
Okay, my
Thanks.
privilege. See you.